So Stranger Things just ended and I wanted to talk about it. It has been 2 days. It is January 2nd since I'm recording this video, right? The series finale dropped. 2 hours, 8 minutes of a finale. It has the public split, and I just want to talk about how I felt about it. I don't know if it's going to be a hot take or not, but I didn't hate it. If I'm being completely honest with you, I am not saying that the series was perfect, and I am not saying it was without its blemishes. We will talk about those in this video. I didn't hate it, but I also understand, I really do, why people didn't love it and why people were very, very disappointed. I'm gonna do my best to not stay, kind of on the fence, because personally, at the end of the day, this series, and I feel like a lot of people feel this way too, they grew up with it. I went from a young adult to a fully fledged adult with this series, and along the ride it was actually me and my sister who watched it, caught up with it together, and it means something to me. So when I critique it, I'm going from that place. I'm talking through it in that regard. At the same time, I 100% acknowledge those people that on the opposite side also grew up with it. 10 years devoted to this series, years and years of waiting between each season, only for it to feel like it fell short. Can't help but feel cheated, right? I think all of that is fair. I think all the criticism that I hear about the show is 100% fair as well. And I'm not going to defend the show, because I think at the end of the day, even for me who liked the ending, I could see what everybody's talking about, and it does suck to an extent. There is a level of disbelief you have to have, I feel like, to enjoy the show. There is several plot holes. There's several things that just never got readdressed. There's a lot of contradicting events that occurred, and at the end of the day, all of those accumulate into people feeling the way that they do. I'm not sitting on the fence. I liked the ending. I liked the show overall as a whole because it was very sentimental. But let's talk about the things that people genuinely did not like. First and foremost, the finale seemed like it fell short from everything that the series built up, especially in season 4. We started off 18 months of a time jump from where we ended off, right, all the way until where we are now. We didn't get to see the military come in. We weren't even introduced to this villain that I think we needed to. I don't even remember this lady's name from top of my head. That's how forgettable the main villain was. She was in a few scenes. She held a gun to people, and that was the end of it. She had this whole experiment, all this plot line that got completely either forgotten about, or it just wasn't important because everything in the upside down, right, got blown up at the very end. So why does it even matter to go touch back to it? We kind of caught up with the characters. We saw who they were. People didn't like Dustin and how he was handling Eddie's death so long after it had happened. He was the outsider out, and even his friends who were outcasts, he was an extra outcast. He was extra outcasted. His relationship with Steve was on the fritz. We also didn't get to fully see Nancy and Jonathan's relationship to a certain degree because it kind of got brushed over, and it gave us one of the most confusing scenes that people really had an issue with, where they broke up and the Duffer Brothers had to confirm it, I guess, outside of the show, saying that they did break up. That was a breakup speech. To me, it was kind of clear that they were broken up. You ask somebody to unmarry you, but at the same time, I could understand what people thought unmarry means let's not get married yet, but let's work on our relationship. So I see where that confusion is, and I know a lot of the time writers don't have to hit you upside of the head with exposition and really just shove it in your face, but I could see the argument as to where people believed it wasn't clear, and the writing was the source of a lot of anger. The writing, no, it wasn't the best. It had its moments where it was funny. It had its moments where it was endearing. There's a lot of speeches that were given, especially when you have the actors give us such a raw and awesome performance. The one thing that comes to mind is when Dustin is pleading with Steve not to climb that falsy ladder because he was scared he was gonna fall to his death. Only for a few seconds later, we actually see that happening. That moment stuck with me personally. When Elle is pleading with Hopper about just letting her make her own choices, right? Saying, you took me in, you were my father, but trust me now, trust me. I thought those moments were delivered very well, you know, and it was a very powerful sentiment behind those words. And then, you know, you had Murray, who his dialogue was kind of funny. It was a little bit over the top for what it was, though, right? Especially at the end when you could clearly see that Hopper and Eleven are not, you know, they're not really celebrating, and then he notices Kali's gone and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you know. I don't know, his character seemed to be played out, and I liked Murray in the previous seasons, but you kind of have that night and day contrast when it comes to the actual writing of the characters. I feel like a lot of people were cooking up their own theories, like on TikTok and social media, some of which I honestly thought, wow, this is cool. And the Duffer brothers were so adamant, nobody could predict this ending. This ending is not going to be ambiguous. I'm sorry. It's not going to be that, you know. And then to some of the theories that I saw, people were cooking. People were Chef Ramsay cooking. The one that sticks out to me the most was the fact that there was a lot of deleted scenes that we've heard about, and people were insisting that we were going to see those deleted scenes in the last episode because Vecna was kind of controlling the entire show, and it was going to break the fourth wall, and it was going to be sick, and we didn't. None of that happened. None of that occurred. People had a theory that, well, that Kali, you know, Henry or One or Vecna or whatever, and Will were being still controlled by the Mind Flare, and the Mind Flare was that thing that was controlling everything, and we were gonna see Henry have his come to Jesus moment. He was gonna help Eleven and her friends take down the Mind Flare because that was who was behind all this. That didn't happen. You know, there was a lot of really cool theories that, if they were to come to fruition, would have been to an extent better than what we got. The other thing that I saw floating around is that there was talks about the Upside Down not being dangerous anymore because there was no demo bats, no demo dogs, no demo gorgons. It felt that the Upside Down wasn't this grueling, terrible, you know, horror-filled place. The way that people were interpreting that is that Vecna wasn't in the Upside Down. He would occasionally send, you know, Demogorgons, Demodogs wherever he needed them, but they were with him in like Dimension X, you know, in that realm. And at the very last episode where you have that final, you know, our party versus the big bad, the BBG, there were no Demodogs, there was no Demobats, and there was no Demogorgons. And I saw these sorry, I'm still getting over my flu. They had these edits like on TikTok about the Demogorgons being on vacation, wearing like these, like, you know, bright freaking Hawaiian shirts and stuff. You know, they're out there chilling because where were they? We saw them kidnap the children, right? They weren't dead. Will didn't kill all of them. Where were they? Where were the Demobats? You know? At the very end, that's what killed our boy Eddie, Hellfire Club represent. Where were they? The Demogorgons were causing such havoc in one of the best scenes in season 5, I'm sorry, where they infiltrated the military base and they were just shredding the military, dude. Absolutely putting work in. The only person that stopped them was Will, and obviously, you know, this is where we also get like the whole every character has plot armor, because why are they just tearing every military person that they see, but when it comes to like the main characters, they kind of just stop and they just kind of look at them and just try to intimidate them. You know, I guess people could say, oh, you know, because, you know, Mike was protecting the children, why would they attack Mike at that moment? I don't know. I feel like 2 of them could just take on Mike and they could still take the children children. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that you kind of have to do to enjoy the show. And I'm not trying to say that every show you should just kind of turn off your brain and enjoy. Obviously, people want to love something because it's well written, because the characters are a standout, because the story is interesting. Like, well, good writing in a show is crucial, and I'm not saying that it's not, and I'm acknowledging that the writing in this show fell off hard at points, and I just think that's an important thing to acknowledge. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm not gonna full on say that people's critiques that they have aren't valid, because they very much are. I'm also entitled, and everybody else, to just be like, you know what, the ending, it sucked but I still had fun watching the show. And I think that's the place where I am coming from too. I still think that season 1 of Stranger Things is the best written season. Like, honestly, if you would have just left that as a standalone series, like that was it, absolute banger. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've rewatched the first season when it first came out. As of recently, during my rewatch, like, the season 1 has such a special place in my heart. The scene between Jonathan and his mom, Joyce is convinced that Will's still alive, and Jonathan just wants to have a funeral to his little brother because he's grieving. They're both grieving in different ways, and it comes to such a huge, like, crescendo in the street when they're just arguing in front of people. That scene sticks out to me so much. I also think of when they finally rescue Will from the upside down, and Hopper is trying to bring Will back from the dead, and we have that flashback to his daughter Sarah, because he felt so hopeless he couldn't possibly was able to rescue her, but he's trying to prevent Joyce from feeling that pain. Those moments get to me, man, and I'm even now thinking about them, like, it makes me tear up a little bit, because they were so well developed, they were so well shot, so well written. The actors were freaking at a freaking 11, no pun intended. When I think of Stranger Things, that's what I think about. They managed to capture a moment in time, the 80s. I was born towards the late 90s, so there was no way I could experience that, but the show made me feel nostalgic for an era that I wasn't even a part of. I wasn't even born yet, and that to me is something that I still think people should look back at and realize how an accomplishment that was. But obviously, you know, when you have something that successful, you just can't, you can't help but expand it a little bit, add a season 2, season 3, season 4, and each of them had their high points. Season 2, after rewatching it, I didn't think it was nearly as bad. The episode that Kali's from, right, which was for some reason put before the penultimate episode. I don't know what they were thinking. Yeah, that really rubbed people the wrong way. That's why Kali and what happened to her in season 5, like, nobody really cared. Like, okay, great, people had their theories, like, oh, Kali is still being controlled by Henry, which that would have been kind of cool if I'm being honest, because why else would Kali want Eleven herself to just be there when everything explodes, right? She had a point. Right, she had a point, but at the same time, it's like people were not trusting her, and she didn't really get that much screen time to be developed. And again, because of what episode she was a part of in season 2, also people were just not really thrilled that they brought her back. So I think people were willing to give her a second chance, but I just think that they just didn't really care for her character that much at the end of the day, as what they did for season 2, which I realized it was all part of a spin-off. They wanted to make a spin-off of all the other numbers, which honestly sounded cool, but the way they delivered this episode really just, no. People just didn't like it, including myself. I don't like that episode. I don't hate it as much as I did after rewatching the entirety of season 2, and season 2 by itself isn't that bad, but definitely that was probably the weakest season in my opinion. Season 3 also had some really awesome memorable moments. We had Billy, which to me became a fan favorite, after seeing how of a sad character, sad background he was introduced, and you don't like him at first. Obviously, he's racist, he's a dick to Max, he's one of the main villains. you know, that's being used by the Mind Flayer to get to the kids, especially 11. And you just don't think he's a good dude. And his sacrificial moment, I feel like that's what made people really like him, because you saw what he went through, and the reason he is the way he is because of his dad. And we got to see those moments breathe. And oh my gosh, the moment in the pool where he's stuck in the sauna and 11 has to fight, dude, oh my goodness gracious, man, that scene is so good. The final battle inside the mall also had his, you know, it was kind of whimsical with the fireworks, these kids trying their best to stop this giant blob of flesh, this, you know, mini not beholder, oh my gosh, this mini Mind Flayer, right? All while 11 doesn't really have all of her powers yet, because they're being taken away. I remember season 4 more vividly. You know, I think it was definitely one of the darker seasons. We got to see such a huge representation of mental health, because obviously we got Vecna introduced in season 4, and how he just played with his victims, not played, but made them miserable with everything that they had in their head, every single thing that they were struggling with. He manifested it to real life. But the entire series itself, like, you had a whole witch hunt, you know, back when you had the satanic panic, which was really real in the United States. You know, people were seeing everything from like rock and roll music to friggin' D&D as something so satanic. So having something like that represented, although now we look at it and it's like, oh, that's kind of ridiculous, at least I hope, that made the stakes, you know, it definitely felt like we were on a clock. And it gave us freaking Eddie, dude, which to me still to this day is my favorite character in Stranger Things, in all of Stranger Things, right next to Argyle, because I just thought it was funny. I think his character was, you know, it wasn't the most well crafted, but it definitely gave me joy, which is what matters at the end. But no, Eddie was good. This guy that was an outcast who gets the entire city turned on him because he was the person that was there. People were so convinced that he killed, oh my gosh, what was her name? Chrissy. Oh my goodness, dude, I'm so sorry. People thought he killed Chrissy, and then again everybody was just going after him. And you had one of the most, to me, hated characters, not because I think he was badly written. I think I hated him because he was well written. Jason, he really pissed me off, dude. But again, I didn't mind his character. I think he was well written. That's why I hated him so much. You had such a dark series in season 4, which is up there. Like, I think if I were to rate all of my seasons now, it'd be season 1 for sure, season 4, season 3, 2, and then unfortunately this very last season. That is kind of how I rate the show. And I remember seeing just Chrissy's death scene. Bruh. Oh my god, you know, that to me, I was like, oh man, this season's gonna be crazy, you know, it's gonna be awesome. I just wish I had that, I felt that dread more, if that makes sense, in season 5, and I just didn't, you know, that which is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it. With a show that has gone as long as Stranger Things, which was just because of the production and how long it took between each season, the kids not looking like kids anymore, the hype that the cast and the directors, you know, the Duffer Brothers, made about this season, saying that it was going to be just how grand it seemed. Like nobody was safe, and yet nobody died. Not saying that you have to have people die in order for your series to be good or anything like that, because at some point some deaths are just kind of shock value, and we don't want to go there when it comes to this series, right? I feel like the deaths that we've had have been so monumental that when we go into this series expecting that nobody is safe, yet you give us a series or a season where everybody seems to have plot armor, especially at the very last battle. Something that I saw been told a lot was, one, Karen, walk him down Wheeler, Karen, the way that she couldn't speak after she got like gashed by the Demogorgon, right? To be able to walk and then have a whole speech with Mike about going to get Holly kind of seemed a little unrealistic, kind of seemed like, dang, where is Ted? By the way, where was my boy Ted? How come nobody checked up on my boy Ted? You know, also he got hurt less than Karen, so you know, I don't know, maybe Karen's just built like that. Maybe Karen is just using the will of a mother, and that's how she was able to recover kind of fast, kind of impressive. Even in that same scene, the fact that the demo dogs didn't care too much about the song about Kate Bush playing while they were trying to hide, and then the final battle, at least, where nobody got seriously injured or hurt after fighting such a like the biggest thing ever in this entire show. This freaking mind flare finally in its full form. We saw Nancy like almost like 1v1 it. This monster just kind of cornered her and she was still fighting back, and everybody just started to fight back. And then 11, which was a really cool scene, by the way, where she kind of force jumps, I don't know what they're calling it, but force jumps into the center of this creature and then tears down freaking Henry like, oh, you know, that was cool. But again, it kind of seemed unbelievable. I thought, me personally, that fake out that we had at the beginning, when they first started the incursion, right, where Steve almost falls off the tower, I thought that was cool. Honestly, I was like, if this is how he goes, I'm stopping the show right now. But that would be that would have been heart, you know, that would have been heart-wrenching to see, and I feel like maybe that would have added something, but they didn't. Jonathan saved them, which made sense, you know. I was completely okay with that. Leave my boy Steve alone, bro. Come on, give him his 6 nuggets. But at the end of that battle, everything concluded, and happily ever after. There was still 1 hour left of that show, so we knew there was something that was happening. And the thing that did happen was that 11 sacrificed herself. I didn't mind that. That to me made sense. But I feel like, again, the Duffer Brothers contradicted themselves by saying they're not going to leave everything ambiguous, because when we finally got that big old recap, we saw that, yeah, you know, Kali's dead. She used the last bit of her magic to make it seem that 11 was there and then vanished, so 11 could go live off to a place with, I swear, Mike kept saying 3 waterfalls, but there's only 2 waterfalls in that scene with 11. If 11 would have died at the end of the show, I feel like that would have been better deserved than what we got now, where you kind of left it open-ended, because it made sense. The fact that I feel like this series, or this final episode, this past season, was just them kind of pulling their punches because they didn't want to lose some of their main cast. I do feel like it kind of diminished the stakes. The only death we got was Callie, but like, did anybody feel anything? Yeah, she had her own little come to Jesus moment when she heard Hopper give 11 that really awesome speech, and it made her kind of think twice about what she was doing. But at the same time, like, if she died, then she died, and I don't think the fandom was really hurt in any sort of way. And I'm sorry, this video is like all over the place because I'm just kind of spewing my thoughts. I don't have a script for this video. I just kind of want to talk about it, because at the end of the day, even though I 100% acknowledge why people are so upset about how the show ended, I think that people that still enjoyed it are also validated, because at the end of the day, shows, art, whatever is put out there for people to critique, but it's also put out there for people to enjoy. And if people don't really want to look too deep into it, then that's their right. People want to look deep into it, that's awesome. I love fan theories. I love watching those videos. When I look back at Stranger Things, I think of pretty much what happened in the last 10 years to me. You know, it was a show that I watched whenever the new season came out, that I've rewatched several times, that me and my sister bonded over, and that moment just watching this series finale with her was awesome. I think that the ending was a very cliche ending, pretty much because everything that Mike said about how every single party member went their own separate ways, it was, you know, it was all hypothetical. He was just giving a story like a DM would. And I play D&D. I play D&D almost every single Friday. I'm part of an ongoing campaign that's been for 2 years, and something that I've learned about DMing is that it's not about winning as a DM. I never want my players to feel like they're losing in a way, and by that I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not going to throw something and make it hard for them, because I feel like you need that in D&D. But I feel like when you come from a place of, you go on this massive adventure, it feels good sometimes to just have a happy ending. I think of real life. Do I want a sad, depressing ending? No. I don't. I want a happy ending filled with a lot of memories that I can look back at. And I feel like that's the route that the show took. And as you know, as somebody who DMs, I'm not the best at it. I'm no Matthew Mercer, you know. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what the series was to me. Just a bunch of friends playing a D&D game, and then they went on this real life adventure, and everybody came back, and everybody was okay. And it's relieving to want all of your friends to have a happy ending, and I think that's what it accomplished to me personally. So whether you hated the show, whether you loved the show, I want to know what your thoughts were in the comment section down below. I'm sorry for my rambling. Again, I just wanted to talk about it because this show no doubt is monumental, and I already see the comparisons drawn to Game of Thrones. I didn't have a sentimental tie to Game of Thrones, which is weird because I love D&D, so it's like, you know, it's like right there, you know, high fantasy. I just never really got into it. I think my friend and I started watching it, we got to like episode 5. I don't know, maybe I have to watch it. I like Stranger Things. I hope they don't do any spin-offs, please. Those kids playing D&D at the end, just leave it at that. Mike passed on the torch of D&D. That's all we need. Please, no more spin-offs. No nothing. Just leave it as it is. The finale was meh, but overall, you created something that spanned 10 years and people loved, and that's it. You know, let's keep it at that. Let's close this chapter. I really hope they do that, but I don't know. It's Netflix. They probably won't. I'm sorry. I'm not like a deep critic. I do critique a lot, but I'm also the guy who loves Fast and the Furious. Like, unironically, I love those movies. They're great. So yeah, so don't take what I'm saying seriously either. I just wanted to yap because that's what I like to do. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the show's conclusion. You know, comment section down below. I don't judge whether you loved it, you hate it. Let me know. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. I'm just doing whatever I feel like on this channel, just posting whatever, whenever. So if you want to be part of that, I would appreciate that greatly. Thank you so much. My name is Hugo, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that is. Stay golden. Also, I didn't hate Will's coming out scene. I thought that was cool. What I didn't like was the fact that it wasn't even used by Vecna at the end of the day. Although I really like the fact that Henry didn't give in to Will's speech about, let's do this together. I like it when a villain stays a villain. Anyway, that's it. All right, bye.